Shrink, you mentioned earlier that you thought that Xingsu would actually get out of this group, which is a bit of a surprise. I can't really decide between these two just because Tiddler, it's hard to know where his game is at, how skilled he is. But I'm gonna have to go with him just because he's a more experienced player. So I'm gonna be feeling any nerves. Xingsu hasn't won anything really huge, so that could go into play. What do you think, Rapid?
Well, for me, I don't really like to root against Tiddler because he is one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. So it feels kind of bad when I'm like, yeah, that guy's not very good, but he has actually still retained a lot of his, general Hearthstone intelligence. And you notice he banned out his opponent's shaman class. Well, he actually has brought one of his own, and of course, we all know how strong aggro shaman is now. Just very, very difficult to deal with that much early pressure. And especially when you look at this priest hand, it is not geared towards the early game.
Ooh.
Luckily, he drew into a 2-drop, so that's going to be pretty nice.
Not only did he draw in a 2-drop, but that 2-drop drew or discovered, I should say, a 3-drop in that Deathlord, which is absolutely huge for him
Yeah,
here.
that's kind of ridiculous. I'm not sure how many 3-drop death rattles there are out there, but I promise you only one of them's a taunt, and that is going to be the case there, the draw. Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Right, and so Shingsu actually has kind of a choice here. He could have gone for the Death Lord right away, but seeing as how none of the minions on the board actually died to the Death Lord, and there was no Holy Nova follow-up, this is actually a bit of a heads-up player here by Shingsu. As far as the deck choices are concerned, it looks like Shingsu, this is part of the reason why he didn't bound the Shaman. Maybe the Warlock in his arsenal is actually Arena Lock as well. Maybe it's a more defensive Warlock. So pretty good opening here by Xingsu, picking this Priest into the Shaman. Obviously, Shaman's capable of winning this matchup, but it's not, a guarantee. And looks like Tiddler's just going to go full smork here, going to actually lightning bolt the face and, direct everything towards Anduin Rin here and get him down to 18 health right away. Unfortunately, there's lots of
Oh,
healing. There is a Harrison as well, so this is not looking good for Tiddler at all.
Yeah, and we all know there's only one weapon in the Shaman deck, and that is Doomhammer, which Harrison Jones, man, he's been questing a very, very long time, and it's all for the Doomhammer. It's like Doomhammer and Jiraxis's are kind of the dream. Sometimes they make you overdraw because they're too good, but it's definitely out there, so it's a possibility that we could see here in a couple turns.
Right, but in the meantime, Tiddler does have a pretty, not easy, but efficient way of dealing with that Death Lord. You usually don't see it go that easily. Typically, there's more to do it than that. And this Holy Nova doesn't actually end up clearing the board. The biggest thing I see in the hand, though, of Xingsu that makes it look pretty dire for Tiddler here is obviously you mentioned the Harrison Duns as well as the heal bot here. So going to be interesting to see if Tiddler can get those last few points of damage in, or if Xingsu can find a way to hold on as a second Death Lord comes into his hand.
I just want to see Tiddler's face when he gets his Doomhammer Harrison Jones. Like that was always kind of the dream, the legend, because neither one of those cards were kind of popular for a while. I mean, Harrison has always been pretty popular, but not a lot of Shaman decks used to run Doomhammer. But now, of course, this is the primary Shaman deck. It's the only one that you're going to see played, and it always runs Doomhammer as its only weapon. So this was kind of bound to happen sooner or later. We'll see what minion comes in off of this. Oh, it's Sir Finley, who is now Sir Totally Useless, 1/3 that doesn't do anything.
well, I mean, it's actually good because Finny actually survives the light bomb.
That's true.
Right, but I think you're fine with that surviving a light bomb, especially. I mean, something like the Argent Horse Rider survives a light bomb. There's other things that survive a light bomb, so I think that Xingsu is actually kind of fine with this. And obviously, you'd much rather have that card change your hero power because as we go further along, the totem's not going to be helping too much. We occasionally see Flame Tongue totems, but usually those totems basically do nothing at all. And pretty tough decision here by Xingsu. I mean, basically, the name of the game is how greedy can you get, right? Because if you play too safe, then maybe your opponent just reloads and is able to kill you, and you don't have much on the board. Looks like he's going to go for a pretty safe route here. Going to go with a Light Bomb and kill off his own Dark Cultist to remove as much damage as possible. And I imagine this turn is going to be the one where the Doomhammer comes out. However, looking at, I mean, we were talking about Harrison, this being such a good situation for Xingsu, but look at the tempo that Celestial has, or excuse me, Tiddler has been able to get out here. Once this Harrison comes on, which he basically has to do, you can't really heal bot here because you're not really healing yourself for that much if you just, take two more Doomhammer shots to the face. But if he does go for Harrison here, he has 3 mana left, and Tiddler could definitely draw into more damage with that Ancestral Knowledge. So, I don't know, this game is pretty tricky still.
Harrison into double flash heal, then the game ends there.
Right. But the thing is, he does have Healbot in his deck, so that's a little bit too much healing unless you're really, really going for the anti-aggro approach. So yeah, goes for the Healbot, realizes that even if there's a Rock Biter, he's actually healing more over the course of this. I mean, basically he's playing to stay alive this particular turn, and if he stays alive this turn, then maybe he can continue to stay alive by using the Harrison Jones. But that's the play he was going there, it seems like. And for Tiddler, he has a bit of an option here. Can go for the Wolf Rider right now, but doesn't set up the Totem Golem. But yeah, he's going to be as managed efficient as possible without using his hero power. He's getting a bunch of damage on the board. And knows that this is probably the best chance he's ever going to get to have this Leopard Gnome do damage, because no way in hell is Xingsu going to be caballing that right now. Deathlord comes in the hand though, but we do have an Earthshock, so we'll see what happens with his Harrison. Obviously draws 4 cards here, and we'll see what he can be able to do with it. Entomb doesn't help, that the Northshire doesn't help, Valence doesn't help, Sludge Belcher does help, but you can't play it right here. So basically you're looking at playing the Deathlord and Northshire Cleric just for tempo, and then clearing out as much damage as possible. That does keep him alive, so there's still a chance here for Xingsu.
Yep, miracles do happen, and to be fair, Control Priest has always been good at sort of just barely hanging on and staying alive, even at low health, and that's exactly what the hand that he has currently is going to be useful for. Deathlord, it's a tempo loss when you give your opponent a free monster, but it's it's still going to keep him alive for now, which is what he is primarily concerned with. But,
Crackle could be the end of the game here. If it, well, I guess it isn't. But if it was spell damage plus, it was basically a 1 in 8 chance, or excuse me, 1 in 16 chance of the game being over right there. But didn't roll a spell damage, so Celestial did not go for that. And Xingsu with, again, interesting decision. He could go for Thought Steal and maybe get
card draw.
I am not sure what he can get, but
yeah,
he could get Ancestral Knowledge to draw deeper into his deck.
Right. But I think, he might actually just go for the Cabal here onto the Totem. Gives you an extra, taunt there so that you can't just silence one and then charge the face. And on top of that, you're getting closer and closer to just killing your opponent, which obviously is very important if you're trying to stave off having yourself killed. But looks like he's going to go for a different way to taunt himself up. And this actually makes a bit of sense too, since he does have the mana to go ahead and do this. A bit of an indecision here as to what to use his Valence on, but I do like going face here because you're not going to win clearing out every single minion, especially with 2 taunts on the board. You should be safe. Let's see what is picked up here for Tiddler. Second Earthshock. Don't see that too often, but
well, it's gonna get pretty close with the damage to the face, but it's still only 6. Puts him down to 3, and that means that well, we're about to see whether or not
that is actually game, isn't it? Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Did he just?
Hello, wait, what?
What guy? Wait, did he
what?
just misclick?
Tiddler just no, he just misclicked. That was lethal.
That couldn't be any.
There's no way that was anything but a misclick. He just gives up.
That was really bizarre. Xingsu.
Wait, Xingsu's just like, wait, why did he surrender?
Well, was there lethal on board for Xingsu?
Yeah, I mean, Xingsu didn't know why the Earthshock went to the Healbot. I think it's misclick.
Yeah, it's definitely a misclick. Tiddler definitely misclicked there. Oh, that is.
You can see kind of like a half smile there from him, but he's obviously upset on the inside. And yeah, it looks like it was just a misclick. Nothing crazy happened. I mean, maybe they're looking at computer troubles. Maybe his mouse,
Yeah,
something happened
just
right at that
confirming
moment.
that he have won. Like it's not like glitch. Like you have to replay that or
Um, well, I guess we'll just see what happens here. Looks like he's kind of smiling, so I don't think it doesn't seem like
there's
he's complaining too much. It looks like he's more just embarrassed about what happened, or, but obviously we can't really be sure. But well,
that
looks like
happened.
we're having an interview with Xingsu. Okay. But yeah, that was really awkward. That could have been one of the craziest come from behind victories without that misclick. But I mean, I don't even
Being
know.
greedy never punished.
I don't know
Wow.
what to say. That was so weird. I guess we'll get an official, ruling. Maybe the commentators will talk about it when we finish this interview. But wow, what? I mean, we all agree that that was Miss Lethal, right? But
Yeah,
jeez.
Okay, so there
we
you go.
have
It's a
the
victory for Xingsu, and not going to be a regame. It seems like. I mean, to be fair, it was unlikely for Tiddler to have drawn the second Urshok. I guess he could have drawn another damage spell, but he could have just lost the game there by drawing a Wolf Rider or something like that. So, um, yeah, just there's many ways for him to have lost that game. Unfortunately, it was of his own mistake that he lost.
I mean,
But
yeah.
anyway, we're going into game two, and Tiddler he has three decks left, obviously, and Xingsu has his priest cleared, which leaves him with Druid and Warlock. Looks like he's going to go with the Warlock here,
Hmm.
and don't know what this Warlock is just from looking at those cards. Looks like it's Zoo. Yeah, it looks like it's just Zoo with a Lothab in there and a Big Game Hunter. Usually, you sometimes see Lothab. You very occasionally see Big Game Hunter. I think that was a tech that Raynad put into Zoo, I think a month or so ago. But don't always see that card. I know it makes me particularly angry when I don't expect my Zoo opponent to have a BGH, but then they do.
Yeah. Um,
But
I'll never forget the other tech that Reynad put into Zoo at the exact same time was the Reliquary Seeker, and I was really hoping that both of those techs would work out. Unfortunately, Reliquary Seeker, I don't think you'll see that in many lists, but the BGH is still actually pretty helpful.
yeah, definitely. Especially because there's so many, things that you can be. Even like aggressive decks, you sometimes, for instance, see Spell Reavers in Druid, and a lot of decks when,
Right.
Doctor Boom, no matter
And
how aggressive they are.
yeah, and sometimes your opponents can get a little bit greedy and they won't play around BGH, so they'll overbuff a monster, and then you can clear it out, and you're like, whoa! Why do you run that card? Then you're like, well, because you don't respect it sometimes. But either way, getting back into what should be actually a pretty exciting match. Now, we all know from watching just if in the as recent as the last series that Fuoliver didn't really have a way to deal with the Mal'Ganis that was summoned off of that Void Caller. So it's definitely something that could happen here for Xingsu. So it's definitely something that maybe if Tiddler was watching, he can learn a little bit of a lesson and make sure to be careful about that for when that happens here, because it can definitely be game over because you just get so much tempo for free. It's just 9 mana on the board for free, and it's super difficult to deal
Ooh,
with there. But oh, unlucky.
never lucky, baby rage. So yeah, but it doesn't go for the Void Caller here. I mean, I can't. It's a pretty slow card, and I can't really imagine Tiddler really touching that. Especially you just saw his last turn, right? He didn't really, bother to deal with any of the 1/1s on board. Just went to the face. So from here on out, I think we're just gonna see Celestial go face as much as possible. He has actually 2 Urshocks in this deck, and we're gonna need to be seeing, Xingsu here race as hard as possible, or pick up a defender of Argus, essentially. I don't think that something like, for instance, a Void Walker will really help him out too much, although that, help a little bit. But, with this kind of hand, what do you do here as Xingsu? I mean, I think you might actually have to just play this Doomguard out and just trying to push as much damage as possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
but
it. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was yeah, sorry, but at the same time, you want to somehow get the Mal'Ganis very early. just to stay immune and hope that your opponent just spend all the damage on your Morganis and you can get all the value from that. So
Right, so yeah, you could see a power overwhelming and try to go over the 50-50, get Mal'Ganis this next turn from Xingsu. That could be part of the reason why he played out his Void Caller this turn. But we'll see what happens. I imagine that has to be the play this, or now that he's down to 11 health.
Oh man, this is actually going to be so tense. Now, it's going to be, like you said, a 50-50, Doomguard, Mal'Ganis, one of the two. Now,
Well,
Doomguard's not terrible.
He could play Doomguard, and you actually have a better than 50-50 chance to not discard Mal'Ganis.
Oh, that's so risky though, because you know RNG's sitting out there watching you. RNG's like the devil on your shoulder. He's like, don't do it, don't do it. It's gonna happen, and then you just feel super bad because you did it for yourself.
Oh,
so he actually is.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually really cool way of doing that. He does get Mal'Ganis down there. It's basically the best possible situation for him to be in. He's got a huge board, invincibility. And this is a situation where Tiddler really wishes he had one of those 2 Earth Shocks that he had in the last game.
Just don't misclick it this time. But,
well, actually, I think what's the card that silences demons that absolutely no one will ever play in any deck?
Holy Warrior.
Yeah, Holy Warrior would be so good right here. If Ronnie James Dio's out there, he knows all about Holy Warriors, Holy Divers.
Is it called Holy Warrior? Sorry, I don't feel like we do have Zencel in our chat here, so maybe you can help us out here. But anyway, going back to this board, I really like the play by Xingsu. It was actually better for him to get as much damage on the board with that Big Game Hunter rather than playing his egg, which I really like. For Celestial here, I think you actually have to just face tank this damage. Use the Doom. The Rock Biter, and just facing the damage with the Mal'Ganis, but looks like he's going to kill off this Big Game Hunter. I mean, if you think about it, if you use the Lava Shock and the Rock Biter to kill this Mal'Ganis, and then you're down to 8 health, there actually isn't lethal on board, but doesn't really matter, it looks like in this case. Going to be it. That's going to be lethal. And Xingsu's going to go up 2-0 over Tiddler here.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I'm a big fan of esports. We got a chance to see lots of it that game. And more importantly, the card I was referencing was Lights Champion.
Right, right. I thought something was a bit strange there.
Yeah. So, gotta go with the Lights Champion in your decks to counter Mal'Ganis. You're gonna see it in every aggro deck just so that the Void Caller Mal'Ganis combo doesn't work anymore. I love that card. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, you can silence so many demons. And then you look at the number of demons out there and you're like, not a whole lot of value to silencing these guys. But
I think you can silence Jiraxis though. There's certain times where you can silence Jiraxis, even though, like, as the hero with that card, I'm pretty sure I saw something by Disguised Toast.
But that doesn't do anything.
Well, if you get your Jiraxis Repentance down to 1 health, you can silence it back to 15, which is a thing apparently. So
well, when you play Jiraxis and he's telling you all about how he's the Lord of the Eridar Legion, you can actually just play that card right then, and he just shuts up. He doesn't get through his intro. I don't think that's quite the interaction, but. Maybe there's a future out there. There are all of those like older cards that suddenly get super good because of like a card that comes out in a new expansion. So maybe there's going to be this new demon card that comes out that's super OP that you definitely need to silence, and everybody is going to be running.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
A lot of Lights Champions. I just really want that card to work because it seems so implausible. But enough of that. On to our next game. So this time around, we're going to see, man, Tiddler is really sticking to his guns here. Maybe he just feels like he needs to come back from that earlier mistake, and it's actually going to go out the coined-out Totem Golem for a little bit of tempo.
Right, and he does have the Reset Sergeant in hand to be able to, utilize that on turn 2, essentially, for, since he only has 1 mana. So that's kind of nice of him. And basically it makes it so that Xingsu doesn't really want to use hero power here anyway. So it's kind of nice getting the Abuse Sergeant on turn 2 rather than turn 1. But Tiddler just basically saying that, after winning with this deck anyway, might as well use it now. Might as well not give my opponent any, or even future opponents, any information. If I lose now, then it's actually like a hidden benefit of not using my other decks because I don't show my opponents those decks. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was going to say, when you're talking about, cards getting better after certain expansions, I was going to say, we're looking at a couple right here. Feral Spirit, Lava Burst even. Lava Burst getting much better by, the inclusion of Lava Shock and then subsequently Tunnel Trog. So never know what's going to happen.
Somebody told me that, and I was like, "What are you talking about? Lava Burst is so good. I put it in all my decks." And then I realized that, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. But it's super good in this one, so it's exciting to see some cards come back and be really really effective here. But speaking of effectiveness, effective way to play Druid is to get your early wild growth, and that's exactly what happened here. So playing a turn ahead, always pretty good, and of course drawing that Druid with the Claw. It's going to be a big beefy taunt, which is always what you want against these big aggro decks. Now, I mean, Tiddler did draw into an Earth Shock, so maybe that's going to be what you see here. But
Yeah.
it's actually instead going to use that here to clear out the Shredder. I mean, it feels like a lot of value there, but when these big taunts start to come out, you definitely start to need
Well,
a way to get through them.
he does have a lot of direct damage, so I like using the Rock Biter here and not waiting for the Doom Hammer, basically because that Rock Biter might not have, excuse me, any value going forward if you do see the taunt. And now, I mean, you're basically gonna have to see healing from Xingsu if, and it could just be game right here. Honestly, we'll see what happens. But
Well, you never know. That's Crackle could always go to the 4-2.
that is game right there.
Yeah.
six on the Druid of Claw, 5 to the face, and that is going to be game for Tiddler. But I want to go back to, I mean, I was staring at that Urshock, wondering if he was going to use it on that Palace Shredder or going to wait for a taunt, and I did like the way he went about it, because when you limit the amount of minions on board, even if they're not taunts, you're basically, killing your own board by not killing your opponent's board, because eventually you're going to be able to do that minion-to-minion combat, which is so, important to them. I mean, the minions on the board cost 0 mana for you to use. Otherwise, you're really, strapped for mana. That's one thing about this game. You're really strapped sometimes for tempo, and being able to use a 0 mana, minion that's already on the board is really valuable. So that was what Tiddler was thinking there. He does pick up his first game, and now it's 1-2 in favor of Xingsu. Still 1 game away from moving on to the winners match there. See if Tiddler can bring it back all the way.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not just a 3-0, especially after such an unfortunate, ending to our first game there for Tiddler. I know if that happened to me, I would be all kinds of on tilt, so it's good to see him come back from that. He's still back up against the wall, and this is double elimination, so it's not the last time that we'll see Tiddler if he is eliminated here. Of course, I guess the same thing goes for if he does pull off the reverse sweep. We'll see how effective this is. Sir Finley Murgleton coming out, man. My homeboy, we'll get a chance to see what he opts for here, and just gonna go for some 1/1s. Now, I guess out of all of those, out of all of the hero powers that you can hope to get in this warrior list, which ones are you really wanting to prioritize, and why did he go with the paladin hero power?
I actually was a bit distracted for a second there. What were the other two?
Hunter and one of them is Hunter, but I don't remember the other. It's not Warlock and.
Okay, well, so the big ones are going to be Warlock for the extra draw, because you always want to be able to draw into your pieces. The other
And
one
Mage.
is Mage, to be able to obviously proc your own patrons. Another one is actually Priest, because it's really valuable in keeping your patrons alive. A lot of times, especially Druid, which has a hard time dealing with patrons, sometimes you can only deal with some of them at a time. And they say, okay, we'll leave the 3/1s, we'll just deal with the 3/3s and the 3/2s, and as long as we leave 3/1s, that's fine. But you can't actually do that if you have a priest hero power, because you can heal them back up and then re-proc them to gain more patrons. So those are the 3 big ones there as far as patrons are concerned. But looks like he didn't really have a great option here. Just went with the paladin, and basically, because Paladin is kind of annoying for Druid to deal with, you have to use your hero power to deal with it, and you want to be playing out your own minions as the Druid. So Paladin, not the greatest. Obviously, you're going to be killing your own minions off and use things like Whirlwind and Whirlwind effects, but probably the least of the evils here in this situation.
Yeah, as you could tell, he was thinking about it. Is like, well, what do I innervate here? Obviously, innervate. It's a pretty good card, but is able to not only use innervate effectively, but also have enough to continue to play on curve with a 4-drop, 5-drop, and then he's got that 7-drop in there. We'll see if he draws into a 6/1 on the way. So really good curve. I mean, it's what playing Druid's all about, and it's working out very well for Xingsu.
Right, and looks like we have an answer in the chat. Looks like Rogue was the third one, which is not what you want to be seeing, particularly when you already have 4 weapons in the deck. Usually, patrons are running 2 Fire War X's these days. When before the Warlock nerf, that wasn't the case. But yeah, Rogue can be pretty bad to use, especially against a Druid where it's not that useful. So I can definitely see, him going for the Paladin there. Pretty painful though, not getting what you want out of those hero powers. And I mean, you run Finley Murgulner for that specific situation, right? You want one of those three, and sometimes you can get another one that's reasonable as well. But definitely the choices that he got were pretty poor. In any case, Drew the Claw coming out here, and Xingsu has kind of a choice to make here. He could actually run his Paladin Shredder into the Loatheb and make sure that it dies to the Deathbite Death Rattle, but then that would just give an easy kill onto the Drew the Claw as well. So I kind of just like going to face here.
Yeah, he could also go for the 1/1. So the warrior basically has to use the weapon on the Drift Claw, or
Oh,
use
right,
a
right,
wire
right.
with effect.
Yeah, that's definitely true as well. So yeah, he wouldn't really hit the Loatheb, you're right. So yeah, going for the 1/1 here definitely makes a lot of sense. Other than allow a pretty easy kill onto this Drew the Claw. And you are giving up 4 damage, but yeah, you're right, Shrink. That's probably the best choice to go here. As far as Tiddler is concerned, kind of an awkward turn now that 1/1 has been cleared up. And I can go for the execute, but it would be a 1 damage execute in this instance. And looks like he's just going to go for the Acolyte. Doesn't commit the Frothing Berserker. Wants to pick up something that can maybe, provide an additional Whirlwind effect. But doesn't get it. We'll see if he commits the Execute, just to make sure that his Lothar doesn't die too easily. And yes, he does. So a bit of a tempo play here from from Tiddler, excuse me. And kind of painful to use that, but he is pretty far ahead on board at this moment.
All right. Well, like you mentioned, being ahead on board is something that traditionally it's what the druid's used to. Okay. Well, it's not Murloc Druid, but it's still going to be pretty helpful if he wants to go ahead and clear out the Acolyte. Now, that's actually kind of like the worst case scenario, because not only are you giving your opponent another card, you're also giving them more armor. But of course, it's better to just keep stuff off the board and prevent it from maybe getting whirlwinded and getting double value.
Right. At least it wasn't Captain Spirit, right? So don't worry about that. And actually, Doomsayer probably would have been a bit worse, because then you actually just pass the turn over to your opponent, because you can't really do anything. So I think Doomsayer actually would have been a bit worse there. But in any case, the Ancient War is going to be pretty good here at minion-to-minion combat. Going to actually use Swipe and Wrath. Let's see where these boom bots land. 2 on the Ancient War, 1 to face. Pretty below average there. Probably Tiller's not too happy about that one. And yeah, this is kind of a good situation for Xingsu here. A lot of time, I mean, part of the reason why Patron post Warsong nerf is actually favored against the Druid is basically because they can't really deal with the patrons. And in the meantime, if you don't have that, you actually have ways to kind of get the tempo back, or play the tempo game with your mid-range minions. But that hasn't really been the case, and Druid has been able to do whatever it wants here.
Well, a bunch of really good cards coming into hand, even just off of that lore. So we'll probably get to see either one or both of those next turn. Other than that, not a whole lot to say. I mean, high life totals for both players, and I mean, we're not really anywhere close to seeing the patron combos come out. There's no like inner rage or anything to worry about there.
Right. I do like the play by Xingsu again to hit the face here. It puts a lot of pressure on your opponent. I mean, you're coming up on turn 9. Your opponent doesn't know if you have combo or not. And, I mean, even if you don't have combo, you're basically putting a lot of pressure on them in general. If you kill off the 2/2, it feels like a waste. If you kill off the Shredder, you're giving essentially that 2-drop that comes out charge. So I like the hit onto the face here by Xingsu. On the other side of this equation, we do have a Whirlwind pick up here by Tiddler, and he can go ahead and use that to help clear out his Ancient of War. Could have also used the patron. Perhaps he views that as kind of his win condition. He needs to get that patron out to be able, or get 4 patrons out. Yeah, I suppose playing out this frothing is big enough, or is enough of a threat here as well. So that's actually pretty good. Gonna actually go ahead and he picks up the slam, which is pretty nice for him. But it does put his Frothing Berserker at 7, which Taylor obviously is not too happy about putting his guy into BGH range. As you see Harrison come into the hand of Xingsu here.
Well, for Xingsu, I think the biggest thing that he needs to watch out for is, not, or I don't know if it's finding a way to kill off patrons, because those are most likely coming down now that we've seen the inner rage drawn into hand. And patrons are a big struggle for druids, because druid doesn't run any sort of board clear. I mean, what is it? Is it poison seeds? Yeah, there you go. That's the board clear that you need.
Well, you need to combine that with Starfall, unfortunately, if you're going to do that. Darnassus comes out of the Shredder, which isn't too big of a deal when you're on turn 10. You're going to just get the mana right back. Harrison is actually really huge here, obviously, because you're able to, disallow that the current patrons from ever coming out. Going to go ahead and do that first rather than playing Wild Growth, because it does draw your card, obviously. And picks up a Wrath for his trouble. We'll see if he uses it now. I mean, obviously getting rid of this Armor Smith is kind of useful, because you can, eventually it could be easier in the future to kill off your opponent. Instead of going to go for a Wild Growth, just pick up a card first. Obviously, Hero Power's not too great here. Picks up a Dr. Boom, which is nice, and this is really looking bad for Tiddler right now. I mean, looking at this, the density of the hand of Xingsu, he even has more burst remaining in his deck, whereas Celestial is just looking at not having any way to, kill his opponent, and in the meantime, he can't really do anything in particular right now. He's going to pick up 3 cards. It's probably the best card he could have picked up right now. That being the Battle Rage. So that's going to help refill his hand. Pretty nice right here. He might even use the Execute, actually, just to get rid of the guy on board. And, I mean, in just one turn, Tiddler, I keep calling him Celestial. Tiddler's actually in a pretty okay spot.
Pretty okay. Yeah, we'll go with that one.
It was looking bad, now it's okay, which is a definite improvement.
Definitely an improvement. Unfortunately, I guess, well, it depends on how you want to look at it. Is that Keeper draw a good thing or a bad thing? Because I feel like just dropping Sylvanas here is also pretty nice. However, 15 life is not incredibly high, so you definitely do have to worry about dying here. Because what is that? It's 14 damage on field?
13.
13.
Right, so it's pretty dangerous, obviously, and you don't know if your opponent's running something like Corcoran Elite, so that could, heighten the chance of you just dying. Obviously, Grom's going to be in the deck, almost certainly, and that you can see Xingsu looking at the amount of cards left here, so it's definitely a concern that he has. Obviously, the problem with playing this Keeper right here is that the 3/3 can kind of just propagate on it, but yeah, he's going to go for the play, kind of, the combination of what you just mentioned, right? Going to put these Savants on the board to prevent the patron from spawning too many patrons off of, the current board, even just spawning off of his own hand, and Sylvanas will kind of, discourage that right there.
Well, now we get a chance to see whether or not Tiddler can actually think through all this. You can see he's definitely very thoughtful, taking his time to consider every possible combination of moves to figure out what's the best. Hearthstone is a little bit like chess in that regard, because it's not too difficult to figure out what all of your possible options are at any one time. To go through all the different combinations of attacks and cards that you could play and how that would change everything. But you have to not only think about that, but then you have to think about, okay, well, here are the cards left in my deck. What can I draw later on? What combos am I setting up for? What's bad now but good later, and just sort of work your way through all of that. So killing off Sylvanas, so it's not very effective, but that does sort of slow down the patron warrior now that he's done with one patron, and he's forced to play the second patron completely unactivated.
Tempo patron.
No, it's like anti-tempo patron. It's 5 mana for a 3/3, and with another Keeper draw, that's just gonna get silenced.
Yeah, tempo referring to the fact that you didn't actually activate it. It just kind of you just kind of threw it on the board there, naked, just threw it out to the wind. But
it's like what Spartans used to do with their babies. If you didn't have if you had a baby you didn't want, then the idea is that you just lay it outside of town. And the thought is that, if the baby was a true Spartan warrior, it would survive and battle the wild and somehow live and come back and be the most epic warrior ever. Unfortunately, that is highly unlikely. That patron essentially is the Spartan baby there, and it's just going to get silenced, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's very, very sad. And now Tiddler picks up actually a way to activate it. Unfortunately, can't be activated anymore. There was actually kind of a difficult turn there by Xingsu because he didn't know if he was going to die. He doesn't know what that card or the card in Tiddler's hand was. That being obviously the unstable gold. So he didn't know what he might die to. A Grom plus an activator or something like that. Decided to take a risk, which obviously paid off in this case. And just played basically the biggest board he could while silencing the patron. But yeah, looking worse and worse for Tiddler here. Doesn't really have a way to finish out the game, and doesn't really have a way to get back the board anytime soon because, Dr. Boom's almost certainly going to be hitting the field the next turn. So yeah, just looking more and more grim here for Tiddler, and we'll see basically how it can get out of this mess. But honestly, looking at both hands, I can't really see it here.
Deathwing?
Right, so Deathwing Tech in the Patron Warrior. Yes, there's certain if the rest of Tiddler's deck is all legendaries, then yes, he can win the game. But that's looking at what a typical Patron Warrior list looks like. Basically, we've seen all of the the threats already, other than Grom. And
now, where's Elise Starseeker, man? We got to get some golden monkeys in this.
I think actually in HGS, in the Hearthstone Team Star, I think we actually did see Elise in the right when Elise came out, we actually saw it. Oh my god, that is a card. Big Hunter.
That's how Dr. Boom usually works, really.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's you draw a BGH for your opponent. It's basically part of the card. That's actually really good. That clears out everything you needed to. Okay, wow. That was a lot more effective than I thought it was going to be. It's not often that your opponent plays BGH and you're just like, chill out, I got this. So nice way to clear things up.
All right, in any case, Xingsu, if he can pick up something right here, he could have lethal. He's actually 1 or 2 damage off right now. 28% chance that he draws that. Big Game Hunter comes in hand. I imagine he doesn't want to use it because he knows that there is going to be Grom coming later. But, this Force Nature is actually pretty useful here in clearing out the board. And yeah, I was wondering if he was gonna, favor more damage to the face, or whether he's gonna use the Force to kill out the last one. But does go ahead and do that. By the way, it has been so long since Tiddler actually used his hero power that I completely forgot that he had a Paladin hero power here. But
yeah, I was like, wait a second, where'd that 1/1 come from? So for now, he's actually kind of playing against himself because he's summoning a 1/1 and then playing a card that would kill it. But
right, in a way, this game might have been lost on turn 1 by the hero powers that he got. Right, those were the worst hero powers. Basically,
no, Mr. Nithal there.
Oh,
no.
No, he's not missing lethal. Unless this Shrinkmaster can hit for what would that be, 6 damage?
Somehow I think the swipe will both kill the gore and the swipe for face for 4.
That would be the Cobra Shot swipe. That's pretty good.
Cobra Shot. What's the other? Isn't there another one that does damage to a minion and then damage to face too? It's like mini Cobra Shot. But yeah, Cobra Shot is a pretty questionable card. It's like, hey, let me do 2 things, both badly for a lot of mana, and nothing that there's no like middle of the road hunter deck. It's like either you're trying to go all to face or you're trying to play some wacky tempo game.
All right. Well, anyway, before we get off the beaten track, Xingsu did win this game. Congratulations!
Yay! Congratulations! Big fan.
He wins 3 games to 1. Unfortunately for Tiddler, he falls to the losers match, and Xingsu goes up to play against Love. Tiddler actually has to beat Fuoliver, who is a very good player in his own right, though the elder statesman of this group, both players over 30, are down to losers.